Good morning, all of you. In today's class, we are going to discuss how to draw a flow chart for displaying given range of numbers, whether they are even numbers or odd numbers. For this, the very first step is to read starting number of the range and ending number of the range. And in between these numbers, every number we have to visit and see whether it is even or odd. To consider a particular number as even number, we have to divide that number with the 2 and see remainder is 0 or not. If the remainder is 0, then we can declare it as even number. If the remainder is not 0, we can declare it as odd number. So that is the logic of the problem statement that is given. Now let us see how can we draw flow chart for the required thing. Now I need to initially read starting point of the range and ending number of the range. So two numbers are to be read. So I need to pull input element here. Let me save the flow chart. So here, when you double click on this input element, you are getting a prompt here. Whatever you want to display to the end user, you can write the message here, enter starting number of the range. Let me call it as start. This is variable name. If you want, you can say a or num1, anything. This is just name of the variable. I am considering here as start as the name of the variable. Now we need to read the end. So again, I am dragging input element, then enter ending number of the range. And I'm calling this variable as end. So here we read A and B. This is the range in which we want to print even and odd numbers. If you take 100 as the start and 200 as the end, between 100 and 200, our program should visit each and every number and decide whether it is even or odd. So in such case, it has to traverse through entire range of elements. We have to use loop in this particular situation. So let me drag loop. So here the loop is going to end if the iterative variable is greater than 200. Suppose if my range is 100 to 200, the iterative variable, whatever we are declaring, let it be I starts from 100, then 101, 102, 103. Likewise, it should continue up to 200. So it should continue up to the end element. So if your iterative variable is exceeding the end element, then it should exit the loop. So the exit condition, you have to write here. Your iterative variable I, is it greater than 200? If it is greater than 200, here in our case, 200 is nothing but end. So you need to use the variable only. If I is greater than end number, then you should exit. If it is not greater than end, you need to continue the loop. And that is what is the indication of this. Now, once we are into the loop, what are we going to do? We need to check whether each and every element is it divisible by 2 or not. So that condition we have to check. But here, if you see, there is no initialization that is done for I. So I has to start from starting element. So for that initialization, let us bring assignment. And you keep that outside the loop because initialization need not be done every time. So now you set the iterative variable I to the start. So if the range is starting from 10 to 20, your I is set to 10. If our range is starting from say 23 to 42, I is set to 23. So whatever is the starting number, that is equal to your iterative variable. So this is what is the assignment that we made. Then it is entering into the loop. After entering into the loop, you need to check whether that number is greater than end. If it is greater than end, you have to terminate the loop. If it is not greater than the end element, then you need to verify. So for that selection element, I brought selection element. Here I am checking whether your I, what the iterative variable, is it divisible by 2 or not. If it is divisible by 2, you can declare the number as even number. So for that, I am bringing output element. So here I am writing I is even. And if it is not equal to 0, then we have to display the message as I is odd. So let me bring another output element. Because I is variable, we should not put it in quotations. I plus is an odd number. So now if it takes each and every element and checks whether it is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, it is displayed as even. If it is not equal to 0, it is displayed as odd. So this loop continues if as long as your iterative variable is greater than your end range, this loop goes on continuing. If it is exceeding end, it is going to be terminating. But however, we need to do one more small thing to increment I. Initially, I is set to start, but in our all these steps, nowhere I is incremented. So let us increment the I. For that, again, let me bring the assignment. Once I is verified, now I has to be incremented. I is set to I plus 1. If you are not setting this, it is going to rotate in infinite loop because I is always start and I is never going to be greater than end. So in such case, if we don't include this assignment box, it is going to be continuing in infinite loop. So I'm incrementing here, the I value by 1. So suppose let us take an example of range 10 to 20. Initially, I read the starting number as 10 and ending number as 20. So I is set to 10. And here it enters into the loop and checking whether I is greater than end. Our end value is 20. It is I is 10 and end value is 20. So I is not greater than 20. So it comes into this condition. 20 is divisible by 2 or not? Yes, it is divisible. So it displays the message as even number. If it is not divisible by 2, it displays the message as odd. Now, once that checking is done, I is incremented by 1 again. So now I value becomes 11. Again, it gets into the loop. Is 11 greater than 20? No. So it enters into this verification. Now 11 mod 2 is equal to 0. No, it is not 0 because I is 11. 11 mod 2 is not 0. So now 11 is displayed as odd number. Now I value becomes 12. So in such case, I is going to be repeated as long as I is less than end. Once it becomes 21, it comes out of the loop. So this is how we are drawing a raptor. Using raptor, we are drawing the flowchart. Let us try to execute and see how the program is getting executed. So I need to enter the starting range. Let me enter this as 10. Click on OK. And the end number of the range, and let me say 20. Okay. So now if you observe, 10 is even number, 11 is odd number, 12 is even number, 13 is odd number. Likewise, every number is cross verified, and from 10 to 20, in this range, all the numbers are classified as either even numbers or odd numbers. Thank you for hearing this class.